Chapter 32. Dress Rehearsal. 3 sets of eyes turned to Cato the moment he set foot into the war room. Rain greeted him with a warm smile, her fingers fidgeting the sapphire teardrop around her neck. He smiled back and sent her a wink for good measure. Cameron and Koba stood up from their seats and welcomed him with a deep, respectful bow. He answered the greeting with a bow of his own and turned his attention to Peyton, who was slumped into a chair, absently gazing into nothingness with a stoic stare. The smile instantly evaporated from his face. Even though he wasn't particularly fond of Peyton, it still bothered him to see the loud-mouthed weapons expert so downhearted. He knew all too well what it was like to feel utterly helpless while a comrade was fighting for her life. The absence of Jada was a reality he didn't have the heart to truly think about up until that point. Raven had already informed him of her condition, which was stable, but other than that, showed no improvement. However, despite Jada's diminished state, he was relieved to see that everyone else escaped the battle relatively unscathed. It meant that calling his dark companion was the right call after all. Or at the very least, not the worst call he could have made. If anyone had shown any signs of damage at all, Koba had patched them back up already. It was only then he realized that his own wounds were gone as well. The teeth marks that were left on his forearm by the long-haired Baldy, the Merylesian tanner he now knew as Cast Yellowtail, completely vanished. He didn't even receive a receipt of the bite in the form of scar tissue. The skin on his forearm was immaculate. His fingers, which were crushed and pulverized when he was overrun by the hooves of a chaotic stampede, reverted to the shape he was born with as well. He reminded himself to thank Koba once the meeting would end. He looked around Saraki's infamous war room and took a moment to soak up its ambience. He had heard so much about this place. Having learned at the academy that it was in this very room, the 7 leaders of Aden came together to sign the treaty that ultimately put an end to the Great War. He imagined his master taking place at the oval-shaped granite table in front of him that looked like an enormous eye, talking about peace and unity, while he himself was about to speak words of conflict and division. Suddenly, he arched an eyebrow and absently meandered toward a piece of paper that was pinned to a wooden board on the wall behind Cameron's seat. He cocked his head to the side, strangely amused by the remarkable prominence of the note. The paper was crumpled and heavily stained with dark blotches that could have been anything from wine to blood and ink to feces. Words were scribbled on it, but most of the letters were obscured by crudely drawn stick figures with disproportionately large penises and breasts.
"They sure have a refined taste for art here,"
Raven said, holding Cato by the elbow.
"Yeah, well, I'm keeping this,"
Cato said with a grin, and snatched the piece of paper from the board before he was guided to his seat.
"Thank you all for coming to this meeting,"
he said, never making an attempt to sit down. He was leaning on the granite tabletop for support and swept his eyes across the room. Everyone was dressed in nightwear, with the exception of Peyton, who looked like he hadn't changed clothes since leaving Onira. Even Cato himself wore a robe he had never seen before and was wondering who it belonged to, but also, and perhaps more importantly, who had the audacity to dress him up.
"I've been told it's the middle of the night,"
he said when he saw Koba failing at an attempt to hide a yawn.
"but I'm afraid there are urgent matters we need to discuss. Matters that can't wait for much longer."
"Let's hear it, Kay,"
Raven said, nudging Koba with an elbow when the healer let another yawn escape.
"Right. So, first things first. There is no easy way for me to say this, but I guess throwing it out in the open would at least be the quickest. You all know what my aura can do, so further explanations are unnecessary. I am not the person who rode out of Serenity Hills with you anymore. 85 Merylesian citizens have been taken by my aura, which means that my personality has potentially been influenced by those 85 lives. Any questions so far?"
"You don't seem all that different,"
Koba said after lazily raising his hand.
"Not really a question, but all right. Thank you for noticing, Koba. To be completely honest, I don't really feel all that different, but I know that some changes slip in quietly and slowly. Maybe I'll change, maybe I won't. All I'm trying to say is that you shouldn't be surprised if you notice mannerisms that may seem out of character."
Cameron made a couple of gestures with his hand and started laughing.
"Very funny, Cam."
Cato's humourless expression seemed to startle the mute quite a bit. For a second, all he could see was the man who ended the lives of his friends Luna, Maple, and Clayton, the monstrous giant who murdered his baby brother, Rocky. But he quickly shook off his malice and forced his lips into a smile.
Yes, perhaps I am more Merylesian than O'Nearan now.
Cameron flicked his hands in a hurry and lowered his eyes to the granite table.
Don't worry about it, big guy. None taken.
Cato scanned his eyes across the room and sighed.
If no one else has anything more to say on the matter, let's move on to the next topic. There is a lot to discuss. Does anyone feel the need to talk about what happened in the city?
He held his eyes on one person in particular.
Peyton?
The weapons expert remained silent and only answered with a shrug. His eyes showed an absence and indifference that couldn't be ignored. Clearly, his mind was completely elsewhere. Cato sighed.
Why don't you head over to Jada?
He said, trying to sound as supportive as possible. He understood that the situation was delicate and shouldn't be handled carelessly.
I'm sure your ugly mug is the first thing she wants to see when she wakes up again.
Peyton finally looked up. His eyes told everyone that he hadn't slept in days.
Go on.
Cato smiled and cocked his head to the side.
We'll handle this from here.
Peyton slowly rose from his seat and thanked the captain with a faint nod. He looked around utterly confused, as if he had no idea how he got there in the first place, and groggily shuffled out of the room once he had found the double-door entrance.
We never should have come here.
Koba said after hearing the doors close behind him.
From the moment we saw the gates were shut, we should have turned around.
It's easy to talk in hindsight.
Raven said and crossed his arms.
We needed information on Saraki. Our mission was to find out if he had plans to threaten the safety of the realm. We acted in a way that was expected of us.
I agree.
Rain said.
We all sensed that something strange was happening inside the walls. No one could have foreseen the monsters that attacked us.
She gasped and covered her mouth.
I'm sorry, my lord. I didn't mean it like that.
No need, Sunshine. I fully agree that they were indeed monsters.
The real question is,
Maya said, brushing her hair with a silver comb she found in one of Val Roker's many bedrooms.
what were they all doing there? What business did so many Merylesian elite guards have in Doriva?
They weren't all dragons.
Cato said and finally sank into his seat.
Of the 85 lives I have taken, only 6 were actual dragons.
Maya promptly stopped brushing her hair. Like the rest of the team, she was surprised to hear that.
What do you mean? If they weren't dragons, then why were they dressed like that?
To inflate the value of the transaction.
Cato responded pensively.
The advisor of Queen Rosa, a man called Jackdaw Blackshaw, had struck a deal of some sort with Saraki and his companions. To prove that he was willing to show his devotion to their cause, Jackdaw promised to bring a Merylesian company to Doriva as his tribute.
The revelation stunned everyone at the oval table.
And they all followed him willingly?
Raven asked, obviously flustered by the incredulous claim.
They did.
Cato answered before any other outbursts could take place.
But they didn't know they were going to be sacrificed.
He took a deep breath and started tapping his fingers on the granite tabletop.
Look, Jackdaw is a cunning man. He managed to convince Queen Rosa of a plan to conquer Doriva and to expand Merylesian territory. For that plan to work, he would need at least 200 dragons, a number that the Queen was not willing to grant, and justifyingly so. 200 dragons would mean almost half of Morales' elite troops. In the end, he was given only 20. But that was fine. Jackdaw is a cunning man. He gathered a group of 100 lowly ranked foot soldiers and another group consisting of 100 civilians under the guise of an expedition to the unknown realm. The poor suckers thought they were some kind of adventurers braving new frontiers, and the 20 dragons that he did handpick followed him with the full conviction that their captain would lead Morales into an era of glory. They were all misled. Yes, Jackdaw is a cunning man. He made everyone wear the same uniform and delivered Saraki over 200 dragons, just as he promised.
Everyone stared at him like he just shat himself. None of them understood what he was babbling about, but at the same time, they all knew that he was telling the truth.
And what did he buy for the price of 220 dragons?
Maya asked.
An alliance.
Cato stated matter-of-factly.
An alliance with whom?
Raven asked. He was gnashing his teeth, utterly disgusted by Jackdaw's deception.
I'm not sure.
Cato continued tapping his fingers on the table and retreated to his thoughts for a moment.
Saraki mentioned two characters that are unknown to me called the Emperor and the Red Bird. He also mentioned someone from Malachi called Jin, who, along with the Red Bird and a few others, is supposedly instrumental to an unknown auric technique they use to control the monsters we encountered.
He sucked his teeth and mumbled a long-winded expletive in the Malaki tongue.
If I'm correct about the hunch I have, this Jin is actually an old acquaintance of mine. And of your brother,
He said, turning his eyes to Maya.
Taimujin Sivalok.
Maya said and crossed her arms.
You know him?
Cato asked in surprise. It was not a happy surprise, as the Jin that he knew from the academy was a well-known womanizer, the most popular kid of the class, not because of his skills or personality, but purely for his looks.
We've been introduced.
She answered coldly. Even though her frigid response pleased him, it still left a sour taste in his mouth. Marcus never introduced him to Maya.
What do they want?
Rain asked, visibly overwhelmed by the harrowing discussion. Cato twisted his lips. He was unsure about telling them everything that he knew, fearing that it would only give them more to worry about. But after casting a quick glance at Raven, he decided that they deserved to know.
Apparently this person called the Emperor is after me, while Jackdaw is after someone Saraki called the Big Bird. Whatever else they want, I'm sure it can't be good.
Why?
Rain blurted out. She put in all her effort to prevent her eyes from getting wet. Cato shrugged and offered her no solace. Rain was a player in the grown-ups game now, and more often than not, it was a game of hardship and heartbreak.
I recently learned that someone else is already after me because of my aura, so it doesn't really surprise me that more people joined in on the hunt.
Who's to say they're not one and the same?
Maya asked and started brushing her hair again, but with much more intensity than before. She still seemed agitated for having to say Taimujin Sivalok's name out loud.
I'm the Big Bird, aren't I?
Raven said, tightly clenching his jaws. Wrinkles turned his entire forehead to an apprehensive frown, and he was restlessly shuffling in his seat. Cato nodded.
That's what I speculate anyway. You and Jackdaw are the only people I know to have such dark skin complexion. My guess is that you two are connected somehow.
He took a deep breath and saw that the meeting had darkened the mood of his entire team.
I wish there was more I could tell you, but that is all I know so far.
To everyone's surprise, Raven started laughing.
What?
He said when he noticed the looks of confusion that were cast on him.
I'm not worried. If they are foolish enough to mess with the Knight family, I pray for them that they have already made funeral arrangements. Didn't you say that you saw Jackdaw in the City K?
I did.
Cato said cautiously, not very much liking the bloodlust he saw in Raven's eyes.
And I have already told you that we have searched the entire city looking for survivors.
Rain said, still trying to suppress her weeping.
Doriva is empty. There is no one left.
Did you happen to come across the northern city gate? The one that leads to a passage through the mountains?
Cato already knew the answer from the look that Maya and Rain gave each other.
We have,
Raven answered curtly.
It's sealed shut.
Sort of.
Maya casually added. Raven sighed.
Look, the passage is impassable, all right? It's sealed off with a strange sort of fabric. It looks as thin as a wedding veil, but not even Cam's greatsword could cut through it.
He winced and turned his eyes to the side.
Not even my aura could puncture it.
I see,
Cato said, and retreated to his thoughts for a moment.
Now hold up just a second.
Koba said.
These are dangerous people we're talking about. Surely you're not suggesting we should chase after them, my lord?
I'm not,
Cato answered solemnly.
but I will not sit idly by until they execute whatever it is they're planning either. I don't know what they want with me or Raven, but I am certain that is not all that they're scheming.
He slid his eyes back and forth between his team members and sucked his teeth.
There is still the issue with the ghouls we need to discuss.
Cameron made a few signs with his hands, paused to let out a heavy huff, and then produced a few more flicks. He finally finished the urgent message with a bang on the table. Koba snorted and rolled his eyes.
Oh, come now, Cameron. An army of the dead? Surely you don't believe that yourself, do you?
He's actually not too far off,
Cato said.
Jackdaw told Ant, never mind who that is for now, needed to sleep first in order to become a work of art. Personally, I don't know any living necromancers, but I'm guessing that the one they call the Red Bird might have something to do with it. Whatever they're planning to do with their army of ghouls, I'm afraid we have only seen a small demonstration of their capabilities at the city square. Doriva was nothing but a testing ground for their little experiment, a dress rehearsal before the actual performance, if you will. We just haven't learnt the venue yet.
Well, shit.
Cato raised an eyebrow and chuckled, never having heard the healer use profanity before.
What about the fact that they all have seeking abilities?
Maya asked, finally putting the brush down.
I'm still trying to work that one out.
Cato was gawking at her with sheer idolization. With her hair combed as smooth as silk, she now took an even greater resemblance to Ava.
Saraki said something about the greatest seeker in the world not needing eyes to see.
Rain gasped in shock.
But Master Cyrus is the greatest seeker in the world.
I wouldn't put too much faith in Saraki's words.
Cato responded in a reassuring manner.
People in Malachi call Ziyan Hizarok the greatest seeker, just as people in Ludor call Enzo Senavelli the greatest seeker. I am sure Master Cyrus has nothing to do with all this.
Even so,
Raven said gravely.
how in the world did these ghouls acquire the ability to seek?
That's where Timujin Sivalok comes in. On his own, Jin's auric abilities are pathetically useless. But pair him with the right people, and he could very well be the most dangerous person in the realm.
I don't follow.
Raven said, scratching his beard.
Jin has the ability to temporarily copy the auric techniques of people who are in his vicinity. In theory, if he were in this room right now, he could take all of our techniques and combine it into something new. But to actually be able to perform the combined technique, he would need to possess a tremendous amount of aura himself. That is why it doesn't make any sense. Jin on his own is nothing but a good idea. The son of...
Cato suddenly stopped talking and widened his eyes.
The tree is reborn.
He mumbled and began tapping his fingers in a furious rhythm.
Kay?
Raven asked when it stayed quiet for a bit too long for his liking. Cato burst out of his reverie with a sudden loud snap of his fingers.
Koba, tell me truthfully,
he said, turning to the startled healer.
Will Jada survive a trip back to Onira?
Rain slammed her palms on the table and spilled some water from her glass when she sprang up from her seat. Without even looking, she lifted 2 fingers and guided the spilt water back into the glass.
Jada will be fine!
She yelled and carried a look on her face that warned everyone in the room they will be hurt if they try to tell her otherwise. Cato held his eyes on the glass of water and couldn't help but to feel proud of the effortless auric manipulation that was shown by Rain. He flashed a grin without even realizing, but turned back to the healer, stone-faced.
Koba?
Yes, my lord. I do believe the trip will not aggravate her condition in any major way.
Good.
Cato sent Rain a reassuring smile and motioned her to sit back down. She obeyed the request without protest, but still wore the face of a brooding storm cloud.
I want you to get Jada back to Onira as soon as possible. Bring her to Master Nia and assist her in any way you can.
My lord?
Koba said, displaying a worrisome frown.
Am I to understand that you will not return to Onira yourself?
Correct.
Cato answered dryly.
Tell Grandmaster Aemon everything we have learned here, and try to steer clear from Master Caius if you can.
Is there something we should know?
I don't trust him, that is all.
Yes, my lord.
Koba stroked his goatee and thoughtfully nodded with his eyes closed.
And what will you do if you don't mind me asking?
I'm in no condition to ride at full pace yet. I will stick around here for a day or 2 to recover. Then I will ride to Malachi and pay Jin a visit if he's still around. There is also a personal matter I need to discuss with King Ifra.
Well, you're not going on your own,
Raven said and raised his hand to show Cato the ring on his finger.
If what you say is true, and the 2 of us are indeed being hunted, I want us to watch each other's backs. We might not know who we're up against, but together we can overcome any foe. Now, I know what you're going to say, but spare me your effort, Kay. You can't dissuade me from my decision. My mind is already made up.
Good.
Raven shot up from his seat and was about to erupt into a protest.
Wait, what?
He said instead.
Good.
Cato repeated calmly.
I want you by my side, for the reasons you already mentioned, and also because I need you to keep me grounded in case I overstep my boundaries again.
Raven only stared back incredulously.
Thank you.
He muttered in what sounded like a question and slowly slumped back into his chair.
Well, if he's going, then I'm going as well.
Rain said, full of determination.
There is nothing I can do to help Master, but there is plenty I can do to help you.
Cato responded with a bittersweet smile.
You have grown so much since we left Ambria together, Sunshine. I admit that I do have my reservations, but I will not stop you from coming along. You are an equal part of the family. You make your own decisions.
Rain ran over to Cato and gave him a hug. He patted her on the back, but steered his eyes in the direction of Maya. She looked back at him and arched an eyebrow.
Do you even need to ask, Cap? We are bound together. Where you go, I go. Besides, my brain-dead brother will be there as well. Could be hilarious seeing him with a woman for once.
Cato smiled and nodded.
That settles it then. Koba, you'll be in charge of your team. Cameron, I'm counting on you to keep everyone safe. Don't let Peyton out of your sight. I don't care if you need to bound and gag him. Throw him in a prison cell if you must. But do not let him interfere with Master Nia's treatment. Somehow, Jada knows something that no one is supposed to know. We need her to talk as soon as possible. Are we clear?
Cameron rose from his seat and answered with a stiff bow.
Good. I want you to depart as soon as the sun rises. Don't stop for anyone or anything along the way.
You can count on us, my lord.
Koba stood up from his chair and stretched his arms with a big yawn.
Well, if that is all, I'm going to get some rest before we head out. I guess I can forget about my 8 hours now.
He bowed and made his way for the exit, taking Cameron along with him.
Oh, and Koba,
Cato said before they passed the doorway.
thank you for saving me.
Koba turned around with a surprised frown.
I didn't save you. Your condition was far beyond my skills.
He chuckled, but it also could have been a scoff.
Thank Lady Maya. Who else but the daughter of Nia Seraphine would have the ability to save you?
He gave them a nod, turned back around and left the room. Cato turned to Maya in shock. She only answered his stupefied look with a slight twist of her lips and a shrug.
I am forever in your debt.
He said and laid his forehead on the table.
You are.
Maya said dryly.
We'll have to negotiate the terms for the ownership of your soul.
Cato raised his head with a mischievous smirk.
I love negotiations.
Raven rolled his eyes. Here we go again. He mumbled to himself and tried to get Rain's attention with a subtle flick of his fingers. He swerved his eyes a few times between her and the entrance when she finally looked up from the table. Rain frowned.
What, Raven?
She said in annoyance. He cleared his throat and awkwardly scratched his head.
It's getting late. Time for bed.
What? Since when are you concerned about something like that?
She saw his eyes urgently flicking to the side and followed their direction. Her eyes went to Cato, then Maya, then back to Cato.
Oh!
She blurted out, as if accidentally opening a door to an occupied bathroom.
Oh!